New York City, 2012. Magician David Blaine begins a 72-hour stint standing in the middle of 1,000,000 volts of electrical current, protected by only a suit of armor. But is it a mere trick, an illusion? Or is it evidence that what we call magic actually exists?
We're interested in people like David Blaine because we find those things amazing. It just pushes the boundaries of what human beings are capable of. And I think that we ask ourselves, could we be capable of such a thing?
We will embrace the endurance effects. We will embrace them because we think this might be real. Well, maybe there's something to this. Maybe there isn't a trick. Maybe I can evolve into a person able to do this kind of magic. We are quite literally searching for the supernatural in ourselves.
Izu Oshima, 60 miles south of Tokyo. It was here, in the 7th century BC, that a legendary Japanese mystic known as Enno-Yoja was banished for his so-called magical powers.
Enno-Gyoja was the founder of an ascetic teaching. Shugendo means the practice of training and testing. This tradition from the 7th century, done up in the mountains with great physical, arduous exercises and discipline, is said to lead to an access to supernatural powers beyond our understanding.
Enno-Gyoja's magic differs from our European concepts of magic in many ways. This is something that you bring out of yourself. He would go high into the mountains, less oxygen, isolated, less food. Just one lapse of concentration and you die. And then also meditating in the middle of a waterfall. That's where he finds silence. That's where he finds control.
Even historical records depict Enno-Gyoja as someone who was endowed with magical capacities and the ability to also summon and control demons and spirits. Enno-Gyoja was also known for his ability to ride 5-colored clouds. He was also said to be executed a number of times, and every time the executioner's axe landed on the back of his neck, the axe actually shattered to pieces.
Still today, we're making ongoing discoveries about the capabilities and potential of the human brain and body. So it's possible that in the stories and legends of Enno-Gyoja, we're seeing someone who was able to somehow access knowledge that was already hardwired into our own DNA by extraterrestrials.
Is it possible that ancient magicians, like Enno-Yoja, were able to tap into incredible extraterrestrial abilities embedded within the human body? And might this explain similar feats performed by more modern magicians like Harry Houdini and David Blaine?
Magic appears to be a derivation of extraterrestrial technology. It's the accessing of the human potential, using the technology of the human form. Magic derived from extraterrestrial beings seems to be the linkage that they gave us to enable us to become more like them.
Do ancient accounts of magic really suggest evidence of advanced otherworldly knowledge? A knowledge given to early humans as a means of helping them unlock their own, some might say, divine potential.
We are drawn to magic. We need something extraordinary that allows us to transcend everyday life and what we sense as profound limits and frustrations to what we would like to be and like to do. It is both a fantasy release and, to a degree, a bit of a map that we might be able to reach further than we think. We might be able to do more than humans have done before, that we might be more than this.
Mount Hermon, Lebanon. Straddling the border of Syria, this legendary mountain, as described in the Book of Enoch, is the peak where Shemyaza and the Watchers descended to earth.
In the Book of Enoch, there's a reference to Mount Hermon. We see the angels basically descending to Mount Hermon. So Mount Hermon was both a place of connection with heaven and kind of a sally port between earth and heaven. The Watchers, being angels from heaven, knew the sciences of heaven. Semyaza was basically an expert in enchantment and root cutting. You could think of it as basically witchcraft, the casting of spells, creating magic, and using roots to create potions.
The Book of Enoch lists very specifically the subjects that are taught to humans by the Watchers, by these angels who begin to share their wisdom with them.
The Book of Enoch describes Mount Hermon as the place where Shemyaza taught humans about magic and medicine. Other powerful angels passed on knowledge of metallurgy, weapons, astrology, science, and even warfare.
The Watchers delivered to humanity the forbidden knowledge of God. All the stories in ancient cultures, cross-cultural, had these tales of beings that would deliver the forbidden knowledge of the gods to humans, and they were all condemned for it.
The Watchers, through Shemyaza, give us extraordinary tools which make our lives much, much better on Earth. So is Shemyaza really a bad guy, or did he in fact liberate humans from ignorance? And if Shemyaza actually is the forerunner of Satan, has Satan actually been misrepresented all of these years?
Is it possible that Shemyaza and the other Watchers were extraterrestrial beings that gave humanity the foundations for civilization? Then if so, how did Satan come to be so misunderstood and misinterpreted by history?
If we equal Shemyazi and Satan, what we're confronted with here is a larger framework which basically tells us that Shemyaza, Satan, were here to civilize us. The Watchers were civilizing deities. They basically helped us to develop our skills of civilization. And so what we're confronted with here is basically the conclusion that civilization, the way we know it, is not something divine, but is literally satanic. It was Satan who gave us the tools of civilization.
Was Satan really a civilizing force for early humans, as some ancient astronaut theorists believe? And if so, might further evidence be found by examining other ancient myths and legends?
In ancient Sumeria, you have these very curious stories of the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki were half god, half man, who came down from the stars. They were instructing the Sumerians in various arts of civilization. They were very strange looking. They had elongated heads. They looked almost like insect type people, or what they call reptilian features in a sense, or a viper visage, as the Watchers were called in the Bible.
In global cultures, we find constant references to these giant celestial beings coming to Earth and initiating or instructing humankind. Satan himself is considered to be a seraphim, which means winged serpents or fiery serpents. But yet the word seraphim contains the word ser, meaning serpent, and rephim, meaning giant.
Was the character we know as Satan really an extraterrestrial being? One who broke with his own species in order to live among our distant ancestors? Did he, along with other so-called fallen angels, actually break with God, not out of spite or arrogance, but instead to help mankind? The Kingdom of Congo, 1482. Portuguese explorer Diogo Cao is the first European to sail up the Congo River into the heart of this ancient African nation. Despite the dense rainforest on both sides of the river, Cao spends months exploring this unknown land and meeting its inhabitants. After he reports his discoveries back home, the King of Portugal dispatches waves of missionaries to the region. The goal is to convert tribesmen from their ancient religion of Vodun to Catholicism.
You have to remember, this isn't too long after the Crusades. So Europe had already sort of went right from the Crusades into colonialism. And one of the big projects was not just to get land and money and slaves, although that was it, but also to gain souls, converts for the Catholic Church.
Over the next century, European missionaries have great success turning the Kingdom of Congo into a Catholic land. Their belief that a sky god created the earth and its inhabitants is changed to the Catholic origin story. But the locals hold on to some of their beliefs, including the concept, which is also held by the ancient Egyptians, that people have more than one soul.
We have what's called the big soul and the little soul. And one of them is responsible for what we normally think of as our personality, what makes you, you, what makes me, me. But the other one is more of a basic sort of soul that animates us, that gets the flesh moving.
They speak of us as each having a lesser angel and a greater angel. At the time of death, the lesser angel stays with the body. It doesn't know what to do, but the greater angel leaves the body.
As missionaries convert much of the population to Christianity, traditional Bokors, or witch doctors, are forced to perform some Vodun ceremonies in secret. European missionaries hear astounding stories that these witch doctors use ancient rituals and traditional knowledge to raise the dead, creating automatons that are later dubbed zombies.
The idea of the zombies is that they actually have only one of these two souls. They've passed on, they've died, and they've been resurrected, but only with the soul that animates us. So they're lacking in that personality and in that personal feelings and things.
With zombieism, it is then only the physical body is resurrected in a sense. And the personality, that part of the soul, has completely disappeared.
Could these stories have been true? And if so, might this be proof that both the Egyptians and the tribes of the Congo were correct in their belief that our consciousness is divided into separate parts? But how could witch doctors, who lived hundreds of years ago, with no access to modern technology, have been able to breathe life into the dead, reviving just the part of the soul responsible for animating the flesh? Ancient astronaut theorists point out that African myths suggest voodoo magic originated with the sky gods and their emissaries to Earth, known as Orishas or Loas.
The topic of the Orishas is very interesting to me because they are looked upon as these divine messengers, messengers of knowledge. And the stories are very clear that the Orishas arrived from the sky. And what I find interesting is that in many of the old carvings that we can find in wood, for example, they're depicted in sitting in these weird craft that look like craft, and that they all seem to feature these elongated skulls.
Is it possible that these African sky gods were actually extraterrestrials that not only taught the natives the secrets of the soul, but also showed them how to resurrect the dead? And could this be the origin of our modern-day stories of zombies?
perhaps through the centuries, these original teachings of these celestial beings were lost. Sorcerers and magicians in Africa and elsewhere began mimicking or trying to copy what the originals had done and had a limited degree of success. They were able to create zombies, but the source is clear. These teachings originally came from celestial beings.
Cape Canaveral, Florida, August 20th, 1975.
Ignition, we have liftoff.
The United States launches a Titan rocket carrying the Viking spacecraft. Viking is embarking on a 420 million mile journey to one of the most prominent sites in the night sky, Mars. If all goes well, in 11 months, the unmanned probe will touch down on the Martian surface and search for evidence of life. Mainstream scientists say Mars is most likely a dead planet because of its incredible temperature swings and high levels of solar radiation. So why is NASA spending $1 billion to explore it?
The night sky is an astounding thing. To the naked eye, the red planet could be seen with its special colors. After all, it's the biggest thing you see up there past the moon. So it's been a special object of fascination and reverence because religious systems often were associated with the planets and the stars, the sky in general. Speculations about what's there, is intelligent life there, or the gods there, that's gone on for a long time.
Our dream for life on Mars probably goes back even to the ancient times when we were just doing naked eye observation. It's the planet that really stands out, that we now know is very close to Earth in terms of physical conditions. Even though Venus is much more like Earth in size and gravity, it's a hellhole in the solar system. But Mars is out there within our grasp.
Among the first to record this fiery red ball in the night sky were ancient Egyptian astronomers. In 1534 BC, they placed Mars on humanity's first chart of the known cosmos, the Sennemut star map. 2.5 centuries later, the Egyptians painted the planet Mars on the ceiling of the tomb of Seti I. But while the Egyptians honored Mars, many other ancient cultures feared it because they associated the red planet with death, destruction, and war. According to some anthropologists, this is because the planet glows red, like the color of blood, spilled on the battlefield.
The association of the red planet with the gods of war goes way back. In ancient Babylon, Mars was named after Nergal, the god of fire, death, and destruction, essentially a god of war. The Greeks named Mars after Ares, their god of war. The Romans, Mars, that is their god of war. Rome was a warrior culture. So this martial emphasis, all connected to the red planet, is accounting for the great armies that conquered the known world, a very successful story, and very much aligned with the planet Mars.
On March 6, 2009, NASA launched a Delta II rocket into space. On board was a new telescope, named in honor of German astronomer Johann Kepler. The space-based telescope was designed specifically to discover the existence of Earth-like planets located outside our own solar system. The Kepler search is focused on a specific section of the Milky Way, known as Orion's Spur.
Kepler's job is to answer the question, how common are other Earths? And to do this, Kepler is looking at one part of the sky for 3.5 years. Imagine like keeping your eyes open and staring at just one part of the sky.
And what they're doing is they're looking at stars, and then as a planet goes around that star, when the planet gets in front of the starlight dims just a little bit from our vantage point because it's being blocked by the planet. And so you look for that dimming of those stars, and then that's how you're able to detect these planets.
So far, the Kepler telescope has confirmed the existence of 5 planets outside our own solar system. NASA officials expect to find several hundred more exoplanets like these before their mission is completed. Once a planet has been located, scientists must then determine if it might contain water.
We know from Earth that all life on Earth requires liquid water. So that is the approach that we've been taking for looking for life elsewhere in the universe. Follow the water. And so that is the step 1.
On Earth, wherever we find liquid water, we find life. And it's true. Life on Earth can exist under an extraordinary range of conditions. Extreme organisms that live in the scalding effluent coming out of the Earth's crust deep beneath the ocean. There are other remarkable organisms living in the waste pools of nuclear reactors in extreme radiation environments, and so on. But the one thing that seems to be absolutely necessary for life as we know it is liquid water.
To determine if a planet contains water and possibly life, scientists use special telescopes to analyze its atmosphere.
We look at the light coming from the planet, and we split that light up, like a rainbow. Now, if you look at a rainbow in the sky and you look really, really carefully, you will see some dark lines. You'll see some colors missing from the rainbow. And those colors are missing because of absorption by gases in Earth's atmosphere. So effectively, we're getting a rainbow from another planet, and we're looking for dark lines that tell us what kind of gases are in the atmosphere.
To better understand how life affects its atmosphere, NASA scientists study microbial mats at California's Moss Landing Wildlife Area.
Microbial mats are important to NASA for a whole bunch of reasons. The organisms that are in microbial mats have been on Earth just about longer than any other kind of organism. They make a number of things which we call biomarkers, which are important in our search for life on other planets. So there are textural biomarkers. So when you pull up a piece of microbial mat and look at the surface, what does that look like? But one of the things that we're doing with these microbial mats is we're measuring the fluxes of methane. Methane is a gas that's produced by certain kinds of organisms that use the organic matter that's in these mats. And when that methane goes into our atmosphere, it can be detected by other missions, such as Terrestrial Planet Finder is one of NASA's concept missions for looking for gases that are produced by life on exoplanets.
We can look for the signature of oxygen or water on a planet, and at least that would give us an idea of life forms like ourselves, ones that are carbon-based and use oxygen and carbon dioxide cycles. Our atmosphere is not stable without living organisms. It would have evaporated away by now. And so if you're looking out in space and you detect around a star a signature of the chemicals that we know exist for life, that's very strong evidence that life is there. Now, it doesn't help you know if it's intelligent life, but it does give you an evidence for life.
Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, Florida, August 30th, 2012. NASA launches 2 probes into space in order to study the Van Allen radiation belts, a pair of donut-shaped particle zones that surround the Earth. After 2 years of collecting data, NASA scientists discover a surprising phenomenon. The Van Allen belts are operating as a protective dome, shielding the Earth from dangerous radiation.
Our planet is constantly flooded with particles from space that are charged that if they made it through the atmosphere would actually be quite damaging radiation to life. But because of the Van Allen belts and the combination of magnetic fields and charged particles already there, incoming charged particles are sent on curved paths that safely protect the Earth and we don't get hit by them.
The Van Allen radiation belt is one of the most phenomenal scientific phenomena to be discovered in recent times. One of the things that's so shocking about it is that it's changing and mutating as if it's intelligently directed.
The Van Allen belts may be an advanced technology that we still don't really understand. A technology that actually is blocking not just natural cosmic particles from the sun from coming in, but potentially protecting the Earth from extraterrestrial weapons that might use some sort of particle beam technology from ever being able to make its way in here.
Were the Van Allen belts designed by extraterrestrial beings to protect mankind from other hostile alien factions? Might there really be an extraterrestrial defense system protecting the Earth from attack? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and suggest further evidence that there is an alien faction policing Earth's airspace can be found by examining modern-day UFO crashes. In 2005, UFO researcher Ryan Wood published a book chronicling 74 instances of strange objects falling from the sky dating back to 1897. As proof that these crashes took place, he cites official documents, eyewitness reports, and even physical evidence.
Ryan Wood's book, Magic Eyes Only, he lists all of these crashes, and I think the U.S. has been involved in the retrieval of the vast majority. It doesn't matter where they are. We had one crash north of Winnipeg, Manitoba in Canada, and our regular people that go and investigate aerial crashes went out there and were greeted with American troops pointing guns at them. And they contacted Ottawa and were told, well, let the Americans have it.
We've had some great stories of crashes, Roswell, Cape Girardeau, Missouri. They're all over the place. And you say to yourself, how could they crash when they have that kind of technology?
You've got to wonder how extraterrestrials, with all of their advanced super technology, would then just crash. It would seem that something else is really going on here. Perhaps we have the extraterrestrials themselves battling it out over our skies?
Is it possible that even now, warring factions of extraterrestrial so-called gods are in fact duking it out over what happens on Earth? And wars that we see in ancient texts like the Mahabharata or the Bible could be still playing out in our skies as we speak.
Cape Canaveral, Florida, February 21st, 2019. SpaceX, a private aerospace company, launches a Falcon 9 rocket carrying an Israeli spacecraft called the Bereshit Lander, destined for the moon. Within the lander is a digital time capsule called the Arch Lunar Library, containing over 30 million pages of data, including a full copy of the English language Wikipedia.
The Lunar Library is a multi-billion-year artifact that we designed to send a message of our civilization's history to whoever inhabits our solar system in the deep future. The Lunar Library contains 30 million pages of human history, culture, knowledge, art, science.
On April 11th, 7 weeks after the launch, the lander reaches its destination. But as it descends towards the lunar surface, Bereshit's gyroscope fails, and the main engine shuts off, causing the lander to crash on the moon. While the lander is likely destroyed, Its cargo, the Lunar Library, was built to be nearly indestructible and is thought to have survived.
We used quartz crystal. That is incredibly durable. It can last 14 billion years. There are 25 different layers. The top 4 layers consist of 60,000 analog images of pages of text, photos. Below that are 21 layers of digital information. The analog layers teach important information to get the digital information off the deeper layers.
Storing this record of human history on the moon means that once, if and when our planet is destroyed, something happens and all of our records are wiped out. There is something in a place that has stood the test of time for 4 billion years.
In addition to providing a record of humanity that will survive for potentially billions of years, the project has another, less conventional motivation.
We were interested in retracing the steps of potential ancient aliens. If there were ancient aliens and they were preserving a message for us to find, what would they have done?
For ancient astronaut theorists, the mission is a milestone event, and one that is long overdue. As far as they are concerned, what humans have now undertaken with the Lunar Library is exactly what extraterrestrials did on Earth thousands of years ago.
The question is always, well, where is the evidence? Where is the evidence? Well, all you have to do is open your eyes. It's everywhere.
Throughout the world, countless mysterious artifacts have been discovered that defy any conventional explanation. And while skeptics may insist that proof of alien visitation could only come in the form of some highly advanced technology, ancient astronaut theorists suggest even the most mundane items can serve as evidence. In fact, in 1936, a local couple in London, Texas, were walking along a creek when they came upon one of the most puzzling ancient artifacts ever found: a hammer.
It was a prehistoric hammer, if you will, with part of the handle still in place inside some very old rock. And part of the handle actually is starting to go through a process called coalification. It's where you have inorganic material and organic material changing into coal. Now, how old is this hammer? The hammer itself was found in the Travis Formation. It's a concretion of sandstone. And it usually takes about 140 million years for this to form. Who was here 140 million years ago?
Modern day archaeology suggests that we've only been around for about 10,000 years. So this falls into the category of out-of-place artifacts.